Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another Indie Game Friday, where each week I take a look at a different independent role-playing game. This week I'm taking a break from looking through my old queue of games to cover a relatively new release, at least as of this recording. Dronjin was developed and published by Dark Des Labs and released on Steam on May 24th, 2019. Dronjin, or rather Dronjin Dungeons of Ink and Paper, is a real-time single-character tile-step dungeon crawler with a hand-drawn sketch aesthetic and a simple RPG system. Dronjin is a strangely atmospheric game, but it's a bit obtuse in some areas. It has procedural generation, but the procedural generation is tied to the character name, which is used as a seed, allowing you to replay the same world over and over again if you choose. In terms of plot, I honestly had to look the write-up up on a store page because it's not gone into in the game. Apparently a mysterious tower has fallen out of the sky and into the world of Inkland, and it is up to the main character to figure out what to do from there. When you create a character, you can select your name, which sets the world seed, select a gender, and then select a class between fighter, wizard, and trickster. Each class prioritizes different stats and offers a different skill tree, as well as setting up different starting equipment. After this, you are dropped directly into the starting hamlet with no further introduction. Characters have a few different ability scores: strength, intelligence, dexterity, then damage and shield. All may be affected by equipment, and it can actually be a little bit difficult to tell what each one affects, since not only are they not explained in-game, but there are apparently plans to make them impact more things, so your mileage may actually vary if you're viewing this review at a later date. What I can make out is that strength seems to impact your hit points, damage is basically the damage that you do, and then shield can reduce the damage that you take. All are affected by gear and may also be affected, sometimes drastically, by skills. Each character has a skill tree which may be accessed during play as a literal skill tree planted in the town. As you gain levels, you gain skill points, which can then be dumped into various skills. Some are rather amusingly named, and a few are just flat out broken in terms of effectiveness. For instance, the fighter can get an ability that lets you add stats by consuming gear, which can eventually result in a near unbeatable character. Most are a little bit better balanced, and no doubt further balancing may happen in the future since the game is still in active development despite having a full release. Characters may have a limited amount of inventory which can be expanded during play, and may equip up to 3 items. One in the right hand, one in the left hand, and then one in the body slot or accessory. Items may be purchased from dealers or may more commonly be found by opening chests as you explore. Items generally have a type, modified by a few keywords, similar to a number of other randomly generated looting games. These all affect the stats that the item either adds or subtracts from your ability scores. Weapons also have an unlisted weapon attack speed determined by weapon type, which should be taken into account when selecting a weapon. Gameplay takes place entirely in a first-person view framed by a very basic interface. The world is represented as 2D sketches in an otherwise 3D rendered world, but movement is restricted to tiles, similar to an old-school dungeon crawler. The world may be interacted with by directly clicking on it and tossing things into it, although weapon swings and other attacks can also do damage to surrounding terrain on occasion. The magic system supposedly uses a series of 4 different runes, which are then entered with the arrow keys in order, but I have to be honest, during my playtime with the game I mostly focused on the fighter classes, and when I tried the magic system I couldn't figure it out. I mean, I know in theory how it works because it is somewhat explained during the interface elements, but I just couldn't get it to work. Each individual map is accessible via a door from prior or adjoining maps, and the initial hamlet has a number of dungeons and areas immediately off of it. It's up to you to figure out which order to do things in, however, as each area may have its own difficulty despite having very similar monsters. Fortunately, this is a relatively easy thing to do, as escaping from combat is as simple as darting away while the enemy is winding up, as is common with similar old-school real-time dungeon crawlers. There are some NPCs in the main world which may offer various quests. At least one will unlock a method of completely healing your character for free just by talking to them. Aside from these NPCs, there's also the skill tree that I mentioned before, as well as a statue that trades coins for any items that you feed to it, allowing you to purchase more items from the dealer as you wish. I found, however, that there's often better uses for items using one of the various class skills, at least after a while. Dronjin is based around a brief playtime overall. You can certainly quit and continue from where you left off, but once you're dead, so it does promote quick gameplay. If you make a lot of progress, you may get some points to start your new character off with some additional gear, but otherwise you start completely anew. If you wish to use the same world, you can just use the same name as you did before, or you can pick a new name and thus generate a new world. So while it is procedurally generated and has permadeath, it doesn't really feel like a roguelike, at least not in the traditional sense, since the maps and such will be the same if you use the same seed. In terms of graphics, the game definitely has a lo-fi sketch-based aesthetic that serves as the main draw to it. You either like it or you don't, and that'll play a huge role in whether you find this one playable at all. I found that the atmosphere, in terms of ambient music, overall feel and tone, was surprisingly eerie. It did really feel, despite the sketched graphic style, that I was wandering around a village in crisis under the shadow of a strange tower. I have to say that the execution of the graphics as designed and the selection of music and sound effects are spot on in that regard, although the UI can be a little bit distressing at times. I found figuring out the basic gameplay easy enough, but throughout my playtime I found myself occasionally struggling with various elements of the UI on the few times that I had to use them, especially when dealing with the dealer NPCs. On at least one occasion I ended up simply buying a lot of items because I couldn't figure out how to click out of the dealer. And that's really where my main complaint with the game Dronjin Dungeons of Ink and Paper is. It's excellent in terms of atmosphere, and I really enjoy the graphics and even the basic gameplay, but it really needs more polish. From minor interface glitches to item and skill balancing, it all needs to be gone over with a fine-tooth comb and really polished up. Fortunately, this is all stuff that does seem very doable going forward, and the price is very reasonable for what is there at the moment, especially if you can catch it on sale. All in all, I'm going to put Dronjin in my tentative recommend pile for those who like real-time old-school first-person dungeon crawlers, and I'd be more than happy to upgrade that to a really recommended if some work is done on balancing going forward. And on that note, I think I'm going to leave it here. As always, I'll put a link to where you can pick it up in the description below. For now, this has been the RPG Crawler with Indie Game Friday Dronjin Dungeons of Ink and Paper. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content, both tabletop and computer. Until next time, take care and goodbye. And if you're still watching this far, I'd like to take a moment to thank those who have supported this channel via Patreon or direct donations throughout the years, without which this channel could not have lasted as long as it has. For those who are feeling particularly generous, you can still support my work through Patreon and now through Subscribestar as well, through the links in the description below.